man brings the issues of the day into clear focus through the lens of a Judeo-Christian worldview. And now, here is your host, Brannon Howse.
Welcome to the broadcast on this July 22nd, 2025. Dr. Andy Woods, Trevor Lden, Dr. Lana, Dr. Lucky. We got a lot of things to talk about tonight. Hey, let's talk with Dr. Andy Woods about this one right here. Jack Posobiec tweeted out July 16th, Jesus did not have brothers. Jack, do you not have a Bible? Because we're going to take you to the scriptures tonight and show you, yeah, he did. He had half brothers. Yep. In fact, you have some books of the Bible written by them. Again, where is he getting this from? I think it's Catholic doctrine. I think so. He's a Catholic. And we have many Catholic viewers. But I would venture to guess some of our Catholic viewers know the Bible better than Jack Posobiec and know that Mary was not a perpetual virgin. She wasn't always a virgin. It was the virgin birth, miraculous miracle, conceived by the Holy Spirit. But after Jesus was born, she and Joseph went on to have a normal relationship and conceived children, and the Bible talks about them. So you might want to be careful about getting your theology from Jack Posobiec, among other things. Remember, isn't he one of the guys that was waving the Epstein three-ring binder in front of the White House? Yeah, I don't know how high his discernment meter goes, but I saw that last week, and I wanted to address it. Did Jesus have brothers? So let's talk about that tonight with Dr. Andy Woods, among other things. How about this one? CocaCola plans cane sugar Coke as higher prices boost profits. Yeah, President Trump was talking about this last week, wasn't he? I think he put this out on Truth Social. I've been speaking to Coca-Cola about using real cane sugar in the United States, and they have agreed to do so. I'd like to thank all of those in authority at Coca-Cola. This will be a very good move by them. You'll see, it's just better. Now, getting rid of that high fructose corn syrup. How does that impact your health, consuming high fructose corn syrup? How does that impact you? How does it manifest itself in your life? Why is this a good thing? And part of really the Make America Healthy Again agenda. Talk about that. Let's see, what else do we got tonight? The GOP-controlled government of Florida just sold out. We're going to show a video tonight. Amy Meck, your GOP-controlled government sold you out to CARE. Remember CARE, Council of American Islamic Relations. That's also Muslim Brotherhood. That's also tied back to Hamas. This is not good. Texas is selling us out to the Islamist. Florida is selling us out. What's going on here? What's the agenda? I'm going to ask Trevor Lden tonight. What is the agenda? Here's another thing I want to talk to him about. Are the Republicans headed toward losing the midterms? Mark Mitchell, his polling at Rasmussen is saying, yeah, I know it's a year away, a lot can change. But yeah, it looks like they're going to lose. What does President Trump need to be doing now to shore up the base and excitement for 2026 elections? Let's talk about that. Let's talk about another great accomplishment by President Donald Trump. I told you, folks, when he does good things, I'm going to shout it from the rooftops. When there's things I don't like, I'm going to say that too. That's what our job here. President Trump has done something awesome. He's pulling us out of United Nations Education, Scientific, Cultural Organization, UNESCO, a UN organization. I want to talk to you tonight with Trevor Lden about the first executive director of UNESCO, Julian Huxley. I write about him for years in some of my books. What was his worldview? What was he seeking to do? Julian Huxley. It'll give you a great understanding of the goal and objective of UNESCO and why President Trump is doing a great thing here in getting America out of that. U.S. Army issues terror threat warning to retired forces in Florida. So as they're caving to the Islamists in Florida in one aspect, we now have the Army warning Floridians that served in the government, in the U.S. military, to look out. You might be a target. So we're going to address that as well tonight, okay? So much to get to, so much to talk about with our guest. Now, remember, before we go to our first guest, Trevor Lden. Remember, we are brought to you by you. Please consider going now to worldviewtube.com/sponsors, worldviewtube.com/sponsors. We've seen a real big uptick in the memberships to our vault. You can join for as little as $7.99 a month, folks. Have access to 35 years of my work. I've been doing this 35 years. You'll have access to my radio shows, TV shows, my 17 books, documentaries, radio shows, TV shows, ebooks, audiobooks, documentaries, my entire series as I'm teaching through the book of Revelation. Just had lesson 43 on Sunday night. We're in Revelation chapter 18. All of this is there. You can join for as little as $7.99 a month. We're still working on it, but very soon we're going to have a very, very, very powerful updated software that will allow you to ask a lot of questions and get only the answers from our quarantined and isolated library. You'll be able to ask it all kinds of history questions, worldview questions, Bible prophecy questions. You can ask it questions on eugenics, communism, globalism. You can ask questions on particular individuals, historical figures, John Dewey, Julian Huxley, Aldous Huxley. You could ask questions about Margaret Sanger. I mean, it's just crazy what we've accomplished over 35 years by God's grace. And every radio show, every TV show, transcribed, and you're going to be able to pull those up in seconds with this powerful, what we're calling Worldview and Bible software, our Worldview and Bible software program. And that'll be an automatic part of your membership to the vault. We're not going to charge more for you to join that. You'll get that automatically as a bonus when we're finished with it. But we're not going to release it until it's done. It has to pass my using it, my testing it out, making sure everything's right. But this is a great way, folks, to support us and get access to so many, now over 3 decades, 3.5 decades of great stuff. I hope you'll do it, okay? You also, of course, will find our brand new prophecy channel at worldviewtube.com/prophecy. We have our brand new history channel at worldviewtube.com/history. I think by this Friday, we'll have the documentary on Robert E. Lee. So that's one of many documentaries we're working on. We have a new history channel, worldviewtube.com/history. Our new health channel, worldviewtube.com/health. Okay. Remember, getting your gold, Worldview Gold, free, no obligation packet. Be sure to get your health kit. Be your own urgent care. You don't have to run out to, you get pneumonia, get sick, you need an antibiotic. You don't have to run out to urgent care. Walk down the hall to your own cupboard. Okay. Worldview Healthcare. Of course, Melissa House GPA, that's the Gatatana I take. That's the phytoplankton that I take every day. You have half a scoop to Dolly. Swish for Life, that's glutathione. Detoxes my cells. Drink good water. Get good water. I saw a water filter sale come in today. This is the water filter under my sink at home. It's the water I drink. It's the water Dolly drinks. This is the water filter on my shower, the bottom right one. It filters out all these nasty toxins. So folks, eat well, drink well. You'll find a lot of these things, of course, that you need right there at worldviewtube.com/sponsors. Also, remember Worldview Talk. Get your own satellite phone. Get your solar generator. I have one of their satellite phones. I have one of their solar generators. You can get a Starlink, and it's free when you sign up for one of their very reasonable monthly plans at Starlink, all right? Bulletproof backpacks and so more. All of it, okay, is at worldviewtube.com/sponsors, worldviewtube.com/sponsors. Joining me now is Trevor Lden. Look at this headline. U.S. says it's leaving the United Nations Cultural Agency, UNESCO. That's the United Nations Education Scientific Cultural Organization. They're leaving again, only 2 years after rejoining. Let's talk about the UN, UNESCO, the communist. Let's talk about the red-green axis. Let's talk about, sadly, where Trevor lives, Orlando's airport. They have put in their Sharia prayer rooms. We also have the case of, I guess, things going on with the bin Ladens, and the allies, child fatwas and Taliban, loving imam, all operating freely where? Texas. Look, folks, we thought Texas and Florida were going to be strongholds to push back against the flood of the red-green axis, the Marxists and the Islamists. Joining me to talk about all this and more is Floridian Trevor Lden. Trevor, welcome. Thanks for being with us tonight.
Always a pleasure, Brandon. Good to see you, sir.
You too, my friend. You too. Let's start out with UNESCO. The first director of UNESCO, as you well know, was Julian Huxley, brother of Aldous Huxley. I have a quote by Julian I've given for years. Here's what he said. Look at this. The task is to help the emergence of a single world culture. At the moment, two opposing philosophies of life confront each other. You may categorize the two philosophies as supranationalism or as individualism versus collectivism, or as capitalism versus communism, or as Christianity versus Marxism. Can these opposites be reconciled? This antithesis be resolved in a higher synthesis? I believe not only that this can happen, but that through the inexorable dialect of evolution, it must happen. In other words, pit Christianity and Marxism against each other till they merge. That's why I wrote the book in 2018, as you know, Trevor, Marxianity. Pit Islam and Christianity against each other until people say, we're tired of the conflict. We're tired of the cognitive dissonance. Let's just merge Christianity and Islam for what we call Chrislam. All this battle, this thesis and antithesis. This is Julian Huxley, the first executive director of UNESCO. Trump again, now in his second term, thankfully, thank you, Mr. Trump, President Trump, for doing this, has pulled us out of UNESCO. Good news tonight, right, Trevor?
Absolutely. And let's get rid of the United Nations as the next step.
Yes, 100%. Tell me about how the communists have used the UN for their objectives.
Well, it's always been a communist project. It's never been anything else. You know, the Alger Hiss, who wrote the constitution for the charter for the UN, was a known Soviet agent who spent 5 years in jail for perjury. I had a friend who trained in Moscow in the 1980s at Lenin's School for International Relations, the Lenin School. And he said the Soviet tutors there openly said the United Nations is our thing. We control, it's an instrument of our policy. And it still is today for China. So, yeah, there's no saving graces there. There's no reason we should be in it. There's no reason this organization should exist. And just by the way, Julian Huxley with his antithesis thesis, he's a Marxist thinker. And he was head of this organization. So, as has virtually every other head since been a Marxist. So there's no reason why American taxpayers should pay for this cesspool.
No,
it contributes nothing of value to the world at all.
100% agree. Julian Huxley, this is in my book, Grave Influence. Julian Huxley, again, the first executive director of UNESCO, which Trump is pulling America out of. He said, quote, even though it's quite true that any radical eugenic policy will be for many years politically and psychologically impossible, it will be important for UNESCO to see that the eugenic problem is examined with the greatest care and that the public mind is informed of the issues at stake so that much that is now unthinkable may at least become thinkable, end quote. And here we have now idea, eugenics, Darwinian evolution.
What this means in English is we have to get to the stage where undesirable people may be eliminated. That's all that means. Mm-hmm. That we have to prepare the public for the extermination of those we do not wish to have around, whether that's intellectually handicapped or crippled people or certain races or ethnic groups that are not considered desirable. That's all that means.
And of course, I have an article over at worldviewreport.com today, your daily aggregated news site, worldviewreport.com. I have a brand new article over there today on Canada. Here it is. Canada plans to euthanize 15 million people in the next 20 years. But then, of course, we know that a lot of these global elite want to use bioweapons, vaccines, all kinds of things to depopulate the world, eugenics. And at the head of this stood the United Nations and their Educational, Scientific, Cultural Organization, first director Julian Huxley. I say all this tonight so that people understand, as you know, Trevor, what President Trump has done here is a great service to mankind and to Americans.
Absolutely.
And they need to understand why this organization is so evil. I mean, we can get into their anti-Semitism and other stuff, but this is an evil death cult type organization. True?
Yeah, 100%. And when you look at the United Nations, look at the World Health Organization run by the Marxist Tedros that is trying to get hold of the entire world's health policy. So you couple that with what UNESCO is doing, talking about euthanasia, you get the World Health Organization totally controlling health policy for the entire planet. What do you think they're going to do with that power? You know, we saw a smidgen of it, a little bit of it during COVID. But you imagine what they could do with complete control, with no country that could opt out. Mm-hmm. This is the brave new world of Aldous Huxley. This is a dystopian dream. Yep. And God bless President Trump for taking us out, for making moves against the World Health Organization. But the UN must be next.
100%.
That must be next.
Yep, they need to go. And I would push them over to Babylon, 58 miles south of Baghdad, because that'll help set the stage for Bible prophecy to be fulfilled. So let them go there.
Yeah, fair enough, as long as they're not here.
That's right.
You know, the American taxpayer pays 25% of the bill for the United Nations, I believe, and gets nothing but a tax for it. It was the United Nations that orchestrated much of the surge of refugees that we had across the southern border in the last few years. They had agencies down there facilitating an invasion of the United States, and we paid 25% of the bill for this?
Yep, 100%. All right, let's go to another topic. Your home state of Florida. Here's Rare Foundation, our mutual friend, Amy Meck. Orlando's airport, Sharia prayer rooms. Florida was the test run for red state Islamization. We talked about this the other night, but I want to get your response. We can let the video play. It's probably going to show a commercial first. Of course, it's going to do a commercial first. But we talked about this the other night. But this is important because this is the kind of garbage that we would not expect happening in Florida, and yet there it is, right? I'll show some examples out of Texas here in a minute. Guys, mute that mic, and I'll let that ad run. And then we'll show it B-roll as we talk. But man, this is happening in your state. Now, Governor DeSantis has done some great things. He's doing some great things. Is he, unfortunately, like many of our elected officials, doesn't know a whole lot about Islam?
Well, no, I think Ron DeSantis actually does. He's been one of the toughest on, keeping Syria and Iraq and Iran from investing in the United States and in Florida, etc. What I think this here is, there's a big problem, this big misunderstanding. Now, we wouldn't have a Democratic Party prayer room in an airport, but so we mistake Islam for primarily a religion, and it is a religion, but it's also a political movement. And this is what people fail to grasp. And, people can believe what they want. They can believe in this spaghetti monster, whatever they want. But Islam is not like Buddhism or Hinduism or other religions. It's explicitly political in every aspect. It dictates political behavior, whatever. So, and it is by Sharia law is the guiding force of Islam. And Sharia is in direct opposition to the US Constitution. See, look, I came to America and I had to sign a declaration that I'd never been involved in any communist or fascist group that sought to overthrow or undermine the US Constitution. But if I was a Sharia compliant Muslim, I would be automatically in contradiction to the U.S. Constitution, I'd be automatically opposed to it. So anything that has anything to do with Sharia or anything like this should not be allowed in any public space in America. Simple as that. Mm-hmm. And any Sharia compliant Muslim should not be allowed to become a citizen of the United States.
And this is not just Florida.
It's not the religion, it's your politics. Mm-hmm. You know, you are anti the Constitution.
You're a revolutionary.
You are a revolutionary. And so, you know, if they can keep communists and Nazis out, why not Sharia compliant Islamists?
Mm-hmm. Now, it's not just Florida. Here's a headline tonight, July 21st, 2025. ISIS supporters, bin Laden allies, child bride fatwas, and a Taliban-loving imam, all operating freely in Texas. I think they know if they can take down Texas, they can take down Tennessee next, my state.
Well, see, this is the thing. I've spoken a lot about how the Marxist plan is to take down America by flipping the red states blue, the southern red states. And the Marxists are working with the Islamists on this. It is no accident you've got a great big mosque at Murfreesboro. It is no accident.
That's outside of Nashville, for those asking. That's outside of Nashville. So they're targeting Tennessee as well.
Look, absolutely. They're targeting the southern red states, Florida, Texas, Tennessee, Georgia. If you can flip those states, if you can turn them democratic, if you can bring in large numbers of Muslims, large numbers of third world refugees, etc., you can turn the southern states blue. And if the southern states go blue, that's the end of any conservative movement in the United States. You know, the Marxists are deliberately doing this. They call the South the new Confederacy. They have a code word for it. It is the bastion of conservative Christianity and conservative politics. Therefore, if you want to take down America, you have to flip Florida and Texas and Georgia and Tennessee and North Carolina. They've already pretty much got Georgia. They've already pretty much got Arizona to a large degree. New Mexico's already gone. So, well, it's been blue for a while, but you've got to take down the South. And so that is why the Muslims are targeting those southern states. That's why Texas has got this big problem with the Epic City. That's why CARE is very strong in Texas. CARE is very strong in Florida and this sort of thing. There is a deliberate program here to dilute the power of the southern states because they are the bedrock of a free constitutional America.
Mm-hmm. And yet, as we reported earlier this year, the State House in Texas passed this resolution to recognize Pakistan Day.
Yeah, well, Texas, I think, has three Muslim two or three Muslim representatives, and they spend all their time just pushing this kind of thing. And of course, everybody wants to be included, all the Republicans and the less clever ones all want to be inclusive, all want to accommodate this kind of thing. Well, it's just showing tolerance, right? I want to show that I'm tolerant. So it's very easy for two or three people to get into the Congress and start pushing these resolutions. And the Democrats will all go along with it, but so will most of the pansy Republicans as well.
Mm-hmm. Let's go back to Florida. Amy Meck put out today, alert Florida, your GOP-controlled government sold you out to CARE and the Islamic supremacist. CARE is the Council on American Islamic Relations. Started in 1994, I think it was. Muslim Brotherhood started in 1928, started Hamas in 87, CARE in 84. So think Hamas. In a disgraceful act of bipartisan betrayal, Florida's Republican-led legislature unanimously passed a CARE-endorsed resolution declaring May 2025 as Muslim American Heritage Month. Not one GOP leader stood up. This was a Hamas victory, not a heritage celebration. It glorifies radicals like Omar, Rashida Tlaib, Keith Ellison. It legitimizes terror-linked CARE, opens the floodgates for Sharia-driven demands. Florida GOP leaders Ben Albertron
Brian Elbro, which is my local guy, by the way.
Really?
Yep.
And Daniel Perez had the power to stop it and chose silence. They've handed the keys of your state to the same political forces that want to erase your rights, rewrite your history, and dominate your institutions. This is how Islamization happens, state by state, resolution by resolution, betrayal by betrayal. Florida's not immune, Texas wasn't either, and the rest of America's next. And let's not forget, the cringeworthy propaganda video Representative Carlos Guillermo Smith made, beaming with pride.
An extreme leftist, by the way, extreme as you can get.
That means socialist / Marxist.
Yeah, he is. Yeah.
Beaming alongside Terror-Tide Care, the very group whose ideology would have had him stoned or thrown off a roof. Let's watch this little video she posted. Here we go.
So it looks like what we have here is Senate Resolution 1384, a resolution from the Florida Senate. I won't read it all, but there are some really important points in here I want to share. A resolution recognizing May 2025 as Muslim American Heritage Month in Florida and celebrating the heritage and culture of Muslim Americans in the state, whereas Muslim immigration to the American colonies began with the arrival of indentured workers in the early years of this country's founding. And it goes on to detail a very, very long history of the contributions of Florida Muslims to our great state. And it ends by saying, whereas the Senate wishes to recognize and celebrate the rich cultural heritage of Muslim Americans and their contributions to the state and the U.S., which is in keeping with the Senate's time-honored tradition of honoring the diversity of cultural backgrounds, which enriches the state and strengthens its social fabric. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Senate of the state of Florida that the Senate recognizes May 2025 as Muslim American Heritage Month in Florida and celebrates the heritage and culture of Muslim Americans in the state. So here we go. Wonderful. And it is also signed by the Secretary of the Florida Senate and is signed by the Senate President, Senator Ben Albritton. Wonderful. Wonderful. Here you go. Here you go. We have actually 2 copies of the resolution that we want to provide. There we are.
Thank you so much. We could not have done it without the both of you and your offices and staff support.
We're very proud to help elevate the Muslim American community here in Florida.
That's right. It's our honor. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Hi there, it's Representative Ana V. Escamani, and I'm so excited to celebrate the diversity of our community here in Florida. Thanks to the support of Muslim American leaders here in the Sunshine State, myself and Senator Carlos Guillermo Smith passed a resolution in addition to all the other amazing communities that are celebrated in May to also include a declaration for Muslim Heritage Month here in the state of Florida.
I wonder if they're going to teach about how the Muslims were grabbing Africans and dragging them to the slave ships to bring them to market. You think they'll do that? Because that's who was running slavery. Let's make sure everybody understands what I just told you.
Yeah,
you're lying to in your textbooks. Your Muslims is who you should be going after, those rich oil nations, for your reparations. So I wonder if they're going to include the history of how the Muslims were grabbing black Africans and dragging them to the slave ships and heavily involved in the slave trade in America. Do you think they'll tell you this about the Muslims?
No, I think they might forget that part, Brandon. But here's a perfect example of the red-green axis. Ana Escamani is an extreme leftist, very, very close to Democratic Socialists of America, but she's also a member of NIAC, the National Iranian Action Committee. Now, that is the mullah's main propaganda vehicle in this country. It's the mouthpiece of the mullahs in this country, and CARE was part of this as well, which is basically a front for Hamas. And it was at Barry University in South Florida in 1994 when the current head of CARE, Nihad Awad, admitted that he was a Hamas supporter. that he used to support the General Union of Palestinian Students, which was a communist organization. But when the Soviet Union fell, the money dried up, so he switched his support to Hamas. So this is red-green axis working right there. This is the communists and the Islamists promoting Islamic culture. You know, they're not talking about a Christian Heritage Month or a Buddhist Heritage Month. It's a Muslim Heritage Month, because the Muslims are working with the communists to bring this country down.
Absolutely. Now that Representative Carlos Smith that was in that video,
Guillermo Smith, yeah.
He seemed a little light in the loafers to me. Is he?
I got that impression. Yes, I did get that impression. And there's another, the lavender is very often allied with the red as well. You know,
well, I looked him up.
Color coordination.
I looked him up, and according to WFSU, Florida's first openly gay Latino lawmaker outlines top legislative issues. Among the newest members of the Florida legislature is Representative Carlos Guillermo Smith. So that was him in the video, was it not?
Yeah, it was him. Yeah.
So again,
he is a hardcore radical leftist, as hardcore as you can get.
Amy Meck says that Carlos made the video, this cringeworthy propaganda video that he made, beaming with pride alongside Terrified Care, the very group whose ideology would have him stoned or thrown off a roof. Well, that's when I thought, well, wait a minute, is she implying what I think she's implying? And then when I heard him, and I thought, oh my, yeah. So I looked it up, and boom, yeah.
Well, he's an even better dresser than you, Brandon. So, you know.
Okay, why did you have to go there? Why did you have to go there?
It was just too easy, Brandon.
It was absolutely. Thank you. But
yeah, but that is the point. He's a hardcore leftist.
But are they that clueless?
If he was in Iran, he would be thrown off a roof.
Okay, so are these people that stupid that they don't realize the ideology they're uniting with?
Well, they do, but they think that's in the future. Right now, let's bring down America. Let's ally with anybody who wants to end a free America. We want socialism now. We'll work with anybody who's going to bring America down. So Escamani is on the hard left, and with Nyack, Guillermo Smith is on the hard left, now working with CARE. This is the red-green axis. If anybody doubts the red-green axis is real, we just saw it in action right there. And it seems Muslim month, you know. Well, it's like I've read Florida textbooks, and I read a history one, and there was a history book, and it had about 5 pages on Islam. Then it had a paragraph on Christianity. And the paragraph on Christianity was how white Christians enslaved people and brought them to America. And as you rightly point out, it was the Muslims who ran the slave trade in Africa. You know, they were, and they still do to this day. They haven't stopped.
No, they haven't stopped. I want to come back. I want to talk real quick about the threat to service members in your state of Florida and others.
Yes.
By that peaceful religion Islam, so-called, right, folks? We mentioned it briefly, but we got to bring it back up. Trevor Lden, trevorlouden.com. He'll be with us on the other side of the break. trevorlouden.com. You'll find his books. You can book him to speak at your event you might host. trevorlouden.com. Of course, we're worldviewtube.com. We'll be right back.
I'll tell you one little quick story. We had a Worldview weekend client who lived in California, lost their house. Very wealthy guy. He didn't use Bitcoin. He came over here, drove to Arizona with $286,000 worth of his gold because he had no money and no house available. His bank was shut down because he couldn't have access to his bank account.
Was this during the fire? Was this during the fires?
During the fire. Didn't have his driver's license. He lost it. The state wouldn't give him a new license because he had no active mailing address. Real mess. So he came to Arizona to buy a house. He's moving everything over. He said, the only thing I got in my possession that I can get liquid with right now is my gold. I gave him a check for $286,000, and guess what? I didn't need his social, his driver's license. Sort of smiled, and I said, you know, I know you and Brandon talked about how this worked, but boy, this is great. I feel good. I got my money. Nobody bothered me, and I'm protected, and it's private.
Just simply go to worldviewgold.com, fill out the form, worldviewgold.com.
Introducing the Sentry Wellness System, the ultimate undersink water treatment solution designed with you in mind. Say goodbye to harmful toxins and hello to water enriched with essential nutrients like calcium and magnesium. Enjoy the benefits of increased pH for on-demand alkalinity, all from a zero-waste system that fits seamlessly into your home. Installation is a breeze, taking just 15 minutes, so you can have clean, healthy, great-tasting water straight from your tap. Perfect for apartments, homes, rentals, and even RVs. Elevate your hydration and well-being with the Sentry Wellness System because you deserve the best in every drop.
Sentry H2O. Tap into wellness.
Welcome back. Glad you're with us. WorldviewTube.com. Trevor Lden is my guest again. TrevorLouden.com. Okay, so we have an issue here with threats. I just think we had a piece of ceiling fall down, Logan. We got to get that ceiling repaired. We had a leak, a big leak up in our AC unit, and now it's stuff's dropping on the news desk. Always something, folks, but we just keep persevering. We have a warning now coming about personnel, particularly there in Florida. This is United States Army Special Operations Command. They're warning folks that any of them that had dealt with certain countries, I think probably Iraq, Afghanistan, to be aware that they could be targeted, even if they're retired, by that peaceful religion Islam. They're in Florida, right? Right, Trevor? I got that right?
Yeah. Well, that's exactly right. You know, these people keep scores and they make lists, and they will attempt to get their vengeance at some time in the future. You know, like Mike Pompeo, you know, was subject to attack. You know, was threatened by Iran. You know, for the work he did under Trump. You know, to counter Iran. So yes, absolutely. If you've dealt in that theater, you would be on a list, and I think that would go for a lot of other people as well. But they might go for the military guys first. But anybody who's an enemy of Islam is got to be, you know, taking extra precautions.
All right. So what else is on your radar as we get ready to wrap our conversation with you tonight?
Well, we've got Omar Fateh and up in Minneapolis.
How could we forget that, right?
Yeah, your home state, Brandon.
Well, I will correct that one. I lived there for 20 years, but I was born in Jackson, Mississippi. My blood and roots are here in the South. I came back here almost 21 years ago. So yes, I lived up there, my old stomping grounds, but my home state, I was born in Jackson. My family's history and heritage is here in Tennessee. I can take my kids to the graveyard, the family plot, back to the Civil War. I love my Southern history and heritage. And the more radical Minnesota becomes, the more I want to say some wonderful people up there, but I am not from the People's Republic of Minnesota.
Okay. Well, I think that the thing we got to remember, Minnesota is becoming a counter state, and this is what they're trying to do. It's got a long communist history and a long Islamic history, and it's becoming in a technical Maoist term, a counter state, a center like New York is about to become of a revolutionary movement against the United States. And like on the council, you know, if this guy becomes mayor, you've already got Robin Wansley, Jason Chavez, Aisha Chugtai, and Aaron Chowdhury, and Joshua Allison, who's Keith Allison's son. So you got 4 members of Democratic Socialists of America and an extreme leftist already on the council. So imagine what they're going to do if this guy becomes mayor. What's going to hold them back? There's 13 people on the council, and there'll be at least 6 of them will be hardcore leftists. More than that, but 6 of them actual Marxists.
So New York, Minnesota, these Marxist Islamists, I hate to say, this seems to be the future for the Democrat Party. They're not backing down or backing away from their extreme radical worldviews.
No, not at all. They can't. They're taken over. The Democratic Party is now a communist party allied to the worst elements of Islam in this country. And they've got huge power now in the Chicago City Council, LA City Council, Portland, Oregon, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, Nashville, Tennessee, Memphis, Tennessee. I could name a whole bunch of cities where they are slowly, methodically taking over the councils and the school boards to form revolutionary enclaves that they can then use to loot the local taxpayers to further their revolutionary ends. So this is a serious situation. Democratic Socialist America's got 90,000 members. They can do a lot. Plus, you've got all these radical Islamic groups as well, like Palestinian Youth Movement, CARE, Students for Justice in Palestine, and a whole alphabet soup of other groups, all working against the United States, all fronts for Hamas or the communist movement or of Iran. It's a serious national security situation. Iran would not allow pro-American groups to start taking over cities in Iran. You can bet your bottom dollar on that one.
Yeah, you can. And yet, our buddy Mark Mitchell with Rasmussen, he's like, look, hey, it's a year off from this November. But the polling right now looks like the Democrats are going to take the House of Representatives. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think that's very much on the cards. I think what Trump has to be doing is getting very active on cleaning out the big vote fraud operations in the main centers. But yeah, it's a very strong possibility. He's got a majority of 3 seats. Traditionally, the party in the opposition takes over the House in the midterm elections, and with the 3-seat majority, that's pretty darn strong. So Trump has got his work cut out from here, and so does every American patriot. Because obviously, if Hakeem Jeffries is a speaker, Trump's going to be impeached every second Tuesday from now on till 2028.
Tell me what you would be advising President Trump. If you were his advisor in the Oval Office tonight, what would you be saying to him?
I would be following up with Ted Cruz's bill to make the Muslim Brotherhood a designated terrorist organization, and I'd start going after CARE and all the Hamas fronts. I would shut them down and start prosecuting people and cancelling visas, student visas, and this kind of thing. What he's doing now, but I'd triple it. I'd go far, far faster, and he's got to start doing RICO lawsuits on the big vote fraud operations in the major Democrat-held cities. And obviously amp up the deportation of illegal immigrants so they can't be easily voting in the upcoming elections. All of those things. And he's got to explain this to the American people why he's doing it. Make it very clear why he's doing it.
Yep, 100%. All right, it is TrevorLouden.com, TrevorLouden.com. And as always, Trevor, we sure appreciate all you bring to us and all your news and information. What will people find on your website? How can they support you?
Well, you can contribute to I've got a website called Keywiki, which has got 178,000 files of communists, socialists, Marxists, radicals. You can go find that through TrevorLouden.com. You can donate to that. We very much appreciate that because it costs a lot to run it, and it's a free public service. And but especially my books, my last book, Stealth: Kamala Harris's Communist Roots, was described by David Noble, who I'm sure you know, the head of the Christian anti-communist crusade, as the book of the century.
He's the one that encouraged me and helped me start Worldview Weekends in February.
Well, because he's a big worldview guy.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. He's a great man, and he's had so much influence. But I encourage people to read Stealth: Kamala Harris's Communist Roots, because it's all about the Chinese infiltration of the Democratic Party, right back to Jesse Jackson's day. They gave us Obama, they gave us Stacey Abrams, they gave us Kamala Harris, Tim Walz, but it's all Chinese.
Speaking of China real quick, China going to move against Taiwan? Is Xi Jinping in trouble over there economically, politically?
Well, Yeah, he is in extreme trouble. It really depends on what happens in Ukraine, because if the Russians can take Ukraine down, then the Chinese move on the Pacific. And it won't just be Taiwan. It's going to be Philippines. It's going to be probably the west coast of America as well. Taiwan, they can just blockade Taiwan. They really want to attack America.
Do you think Xi Jinping is going to survive his little crisis he's going through right now?
No, I think he's already on the way out. I think the military's in charge there now, and they're just waiting for the Ukraine situation to go in their favor. And that's why they're freaking out right now, because Trump's giving Ukraine weapons, which is going to make it a lot harder for China.
Who replaces Xi?
The military. Well, I don't know who they'll put in as a puppet, but I think the military's pretty much in control now.
Wow. All right. What do you think about people like Sarah Adams and others warning about an Al-Qaeda attack here in the U.S. with invisible bombs that they've been, advancing far beyond the underwear bomb and the shoe bomber? What do you make of these concerns that she and other retired Intel people are putting out?
Look, I think that's a matter of that could happen any time. I think we are going to see kinetic Islamic attacks on our soil starting fairly soon. Iran's already threatening it, but it's not just going to be Iran. There's Hamas, etc. Like Hezbollah, for instance, has been setting up cells in this country since the 1980s. Who knows how many more came in under Biden's open border policies. So yes, they are getting ready for bombing and sabotage, assassinations, etc. on us. So hence the warning to this ex-serviceman in Florida. Mm-hmm. I think it's not going to be confined to Florida, I'll tell you that. It's and again, as I always say when I say these things, Brandon, I hope I'm wrong, but we've already seen Antifa assassination attempts. We've seen the horrible double murder in Washington, D.C. We've seen the healthcare executive who was executed. So we've seen the riots in LA. So we've already seen an uptick in violence. But I think as the year progresses, it's going to go into overdrive.
Would they want it to go into overdrive while they're going into an election year of 2026?
Yeah, I think they will. Because they can blame it all on Trump. See. And they just embarrass, and the Democrats will go back. It was all safe under us. We didn't get terrorist attacks under us. Trump's provocations, Trump abandoning the nuclear deal with Iran. This is all Trump's fault.
Isn't it also interesting?
Isn't
it also interesting, Trevor, that the more these Islamists and Marxists get in the street and riot and create chaos, the more it energizes their base, it appears.
Yeah, well, their base is very violent. And look, the thing the Democrats fear is that Trump is going to root out a lot of the vote fraud and get rid of a lot of their illegal voters. So if they can plunge the country into chaos, that's going to make it a lot harder for President Trump to do that. So, so it's in their interest to see violence, especially if they can. Well, Trump provoked Iran, Trump provoked China, Trump, did this. He's got to be prepared for that. And I think he's aware of it. And I think things are happening behind the scenes. We've seen Iranians arrested. We've seen a pretty good response to the LA riots. Trump was pretty on the case there, but we've got to understand, and this is why I keep saying too, to all your viewers, and I don't get any commission from you, Brandon, you know that, but look, get product, get stuff, get food. Make sure you could survive a 3-month shutdown where you haven't got medicine, where you haven't got ready access to food, where you may not have power for 3 months, because all of this could happen. Very easily.
It's so fragile.
Very easily.
Yeah, our system's so fragile.
And if it doesn't happen, you'll have lots of extra food, but that peace of mind is a very, very valuable thing.
Indeed, you're right. Okay, last question. Tulsi Gabbard, I know you have written about her and are very concerned about where she's coming from. What do you make of her, though, now recommending prosecutions to the DOJ over Obama and Russia.
Well, this is what I think. Tulsi Gabbard's trying to save her job because she's made such a hash of the Iran issue and been issuing communist propaganda videos, etc., that she was very much on the way out. Now, this is a way to ingratiate herself with the base and to I'm putting a very cynical interpretation on this because I know this woman very well, and she is a complete chameleon. And that's what I think this is about.
Well, you documented in your book and sat at this studio desk being interviewed by me 4 or 5 years ago, and you were talking about all of her associations with Obama people, the Democrat Socialists of America, all kinds of groups like that, right?
Yeah. But this was going on last year. This didn't stop then. She was working with hardcore anti-American communists a year ago. They are talking in their publications of the advantages that will accrue to our movement by having that woman in the position she is, Director of National Intelligence. So, this isn't what she did when she was young and silly. This is what she did a year ago.
How will the MAGA crowd treat you for saying that?
Oh, look, there's a few people in there who are not very happy with some of the things I say, but I don't care.
I know you don't care, but I'm asking, do you get attacked when you say this? I mean,
well, yeah, I do.
Or is the MAGA crowd starting to understand, hey, look, we've got some people that slipped in, we need to be wise?
Yeah, look, I get a bit of both. Most people respect that I don't say these things lightly, that I have a track record of exposing communists, that I've been consistently exposing Tulsi Gabbard for 7 or 8 years now.
That's right.
So this wasn't something I just started.
No, it's not.
And I was warning Trump not to allow her into that position. And what does she do? She releases a Soviet propaganda thing about a nuclear winter, which is an old Soviet propaganda thing. And she puts some very, very bad. She helps to get very well. Put it this way: in the last few years, there's not an enemy of America that Tulsi Gabbard hasn't supported, from Iran to Venezuela to China to North Korea. She has defended all of them, and I believe is continuing to do so in her current position.
Well, you have been for about 7 years. We've been talking with you about her and warning about her, and that's why I wanted to ask the question tonight.
You can see the book behind me, White House Reds. There's a big chapter on it.
Whole chapter.
She's right on the front of it,
Yep.
And she's done a lot of bad things since then.
TrevorLouden.com, TrevorLouden.com. We always appreciate Trevor because he just lets the chips fall where they may, because he's a researcher. He's got it all documented, footnoted, and backed up. Speeches where she spoke in group. I mean, she gave speeches at communist groups, right? And was cheered.
Yeah, I was there. 3,000 Marxists, Democratic Socialist America, Communist Party USA, Workers' World Party. She'd just come back from Syria and basically defended Assad, the pro-Moscow guy, and made excuses for his gassing of his own citizens, etc. But the thing is, she talked exactly like she does when she goes to CPAC, only this was 3,000 communists, and at CPAC it's 6,000 conservatives. But the messaging is identical.
Wow. TrevorLouden.com. You're a bright guy. We love having you on the broadcast. Thankful for you. TrevorLouden.com. We'll be right back.
Appreciate it, Brandon. Thank you so
Trevor.
much.
My story started with alcohol, and I had tried going to other treatments, and all I did was think about how I was not going to drink, or how I was going to drink one more day and then stop the next day. And Katie had found a treatment. I thought it was kind of hokey.
I could see a couple days into it, it's like the light bulb went on with him.
It's an IV infusion of all-natural NAD. It saved my life and my family.
We've been where you sit.
The hardest part of this is making that phone call and just come in and talk to us.
Consumers often ask, what should I expect when I take the Bella Grace Elixir? And the answer's varied. It really depends on what your health and wellness needs are. I would consider this as your foundational core product for a whole range of health and wellness issues. Let me give you a few examples. If you're a little bit older and you have some joint health issues, some problems with mobility and discomfort, the Elixir is going to be your best friend. If you have some skin health issues, wrinkles, hydration, aging, all of those elements are going to be benefited from the Elixir, including age spots. Now, if you're in a younger demographic, maybe visual health is where you need some assistance. Eye fatigue, dry eyes, all of those are going to be benefited by the Elixir. It's a core product because it benefits so many.
Joining me now is Dr. Andy Woods. I saw a tweet last week. Or actually, Logan pointed it out to me. Jack Posobiec, Jesus did not have brothers. He tweeted that July 16, 2025. I was like, Logan, let me take you to the Bible. We can prove Jack wrong. Jack, I think, is probably wrong a lot, to be honest with you. I'm not a big fan of Jack for a lot of reasons. But he seems to be a favorite among some of them out there. But hey, this guy is so wrong at so many levels, but here's one of them. Okay, Jesus did not have brothers, he says. Really? Apparently he doesn't have a good Bible. Maybe we need to send him a Bible. Let's bring in Dr. Andy Woods to discuss this. I sent this to Dr. Woods, and Dr. Woods said to me, who is Jack Posobiec? I said, that is a great question, actually. Who is this guy, really? Dr. Woods, welcome to the broadcast. Thanks for being with us.
Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
So Jack Posobiec says Jesus did not have brothers. Now, he went on to say, he has a long thread going on this one. The Greek word for brother here does not mean biological brother. Sorry to have to be the one to break this to you. And if you keep going down through the thread, he keeps coming in and talking about this. My son told me a couple days later, well, he's still going on that thing. He's still talking about it. See if I can find a few more things he had to say about it. But what do you make of this, Dr. Woods?
Well, number one, I don't even know who this guy is. I thought you might entitle this, I don't know Jack, But it's funny. There's all these influencers today, and all it really takes is a Twitter or X account. And I call these influencers sinfluencers, because a lot of them, they amass these big followings and they portray themselves as subject matter experts. I guess this guy's part of the MAGA movement, for all I know. And they kind of, I guess if he's got 3 million followers, he's some kind of expert in Greek. Well, he obviously doesn't know anything about Greek, because I just pulled out my lexicon here. I looked up the Greek word for brothers, which is adelphos. And what you discover very fast, and I did this with about, 30 seconds of research, as the late Rush Limbaugh used to say, with half my brain tied behind my head, kind of thing. And it's obvious as you look at that word, like most words, adelphos is not a technical word. Rarely in Scripture do you have a technical word, meaning a word that always means something every single time it's used. I mean, Israel is a technical word. It always refers to the physical descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. But other than a word like that, rarely do you have a technical word. And this word adelphos has many meanings. I mean, here's just 3 of them. It could refer to spiritual brothers, fellow believers in Jesus. That they don't have a physical lineage, but they have a spiritual one. You'll find that usage in Matthew 12, verses 46 through 50. Sometimes it's used of fellow Jews. The fellow Jews can refer to themselves as brethren, within Israel. You'll find that usage in Romans 9, verse 3. And then other times it's used just of physical descendants, or physical brothers, I should say, not descendants, but siblings. And quite clearly, that's the way it's used of Christ's half-brothers. We call them half-brothers because they shared the same mother, but not the same father, because Jesus was born of a virgin. Joseph was Jesus' legal father, but not biological father. But after the virgin conception, Joseph and Mary had a normal marital sexual relationship. And from that relationship came a group of people that we call the half-brothers of Christ. Two of them wrote scripture. James wrote an epistle and Jude wrote an epistle. Who are they? They're the half-brothers of Jesus. They shared the same mother as Jesus, but they didn't share the same biological father, Joseph. So they're his half-brothers. And so these siblings of Christ are referred to in Matthew 13, verse 55, Mark 6, verse 3. I mean, there are countless passages we could give, but that's a proper understanding of this word brother. It's a contextual term. It's totally dependent upon the context in which it's used. So within the semantic range of the word can be spiritual brothers, fellow Jews, physical brothers, and that's clearly the way it's used in those texts I mentioned a little earlier. So when this guy, gets on his X feed in front of 3 million people and starts to pontificate about the meaning of a word, he doesn't even know what he's talking about. I mean, apparently the guy has some kind of leanings, towards Roman Catholicism, and so he's trying to defend that. Roman Catholicism believes that Mary was a perpetual virgin her whole life, and therefore any brothers that she had, that Jesus had, are spiritual brothers, and that, that's just.
Let's go back to Dr. Woods, guys.
That's just trying to read a theology into the Bible rather than letting the Bible speak for itself.
Mm-hmm. So I did go to this website, Catholic Answers. I'm not picking on my Catholic viewers tonight. There's a lot we got wrong in the, quote, evangelical world, the Protestant world. But we just go to the Bible, okay? Let's just go to the Bible. And we just showed you two passages. We showed you, obviously, Matthew 13, verses 55 to 56, Mark 6, 3. But I did look it up because I think that this guy is coming from Catholic doctrine. And the website, Catholic Answers, they go through this. And at the very end, they say, thus the same church today affirms, meaning the Catholic Church, Catholic Catechism, Jesus is Mary's only son, but her spiritual motherhood extends to all men whom indeed he came to save. Okay, so again, this is, I guess, where he's getting it from, not the Bible. We have a lot of traditions in the evangelical Protestant world. So I'm not picking on anyone. We have our own traditions that we have to be careful of. So does the Catholic Church. So I want to be very clear. The Protestant world, the evangelical world, we have some of our own traditions we got to be very careful of and go back to the Bible. So does the Catholic Church as well. We all have to go back to the Bible, not tradition. In fact, the Bible warns us about not making tradition the source of what is true, correct, Dr. Woods?
Yeah, correct. And this is like why the Protestant movement started, like when, 500 years ago? These kind of issues. This perpetual virginity of Mary is not a biblical idea. And so as Protestants, we said sola scriptura, and where Roman Catholicism departs from scripture, we depart, from Roman Catholicism. By the way, if Jesus didn't have any physical brothers, half-brothers, I should say, should we also say he didn't have a physical mother? I mean, is Mary just his, spiritual mother rather than his physical mother? Well, no. Mary's his real mother. Jesus was born of the Holy Spirit, of course, but he was inside Mary's womb. So if you're going to take this spiritual meaning of brothers, you got to play a strange game with mother, I would think, since mother and brothers is mentioned right in the same context. And I'm thinking of Matthew 12, around verses 46 through 50, when Jesus was told, hey, your mother, your brothers are waiting for you. And he said, who are they? They are the ones that do the will of my Father who is in heaven. So there he's talking about a physical lineage, but then he's talking about a spiritual lineage which transcends physical lineage. And in the process, he's not saying that physical lineage doesn't exist anymore. He's just identifying a different kind of brotherhood, brethren, within the body of Christ. So that's a normal meaning of the text. If you're going to, wave a magic wand and make, physical brother disappear, then you have to make physical mother disappear too, which would be ridiculous.
Yeah. And I would just remind everybody, probably don't get your theology from Jack Posobiec. And this might be one of your first clues. His little, in my opinion, his little Epstein file binder, he was out there parading in front of the White House. Remember that? Turned out to be a big nothing burger. So a lot of these influencers, folks, when you start, they might be nice people, they might mean well, but when you start peeling back, looking into a lot of them, you know, I'd be very careful. I would be very careful how much I take seriously from some of these characters. That's my opinion. Now, Jack's welcome to come on the program, but I don't think he will. But I wouldn't be taking my theology from Jack Posobiec, okay? I would take it from the Bible. I don't get my theology from Dr. Woods. Now, can Dr. Woods help me with understanding the Bible as a trained pastor, PhD, theologian, expert in Greek and Hebrew? Yeah. But we get our theology from the Bible. And if it doesn't match up with the Bible, it doesn't matter whether I'm saying it or Jack Posobiec is saying it or Andy Woods is saying it. Doesn't matter. It's got to line up with the Bible, right, Dr. Woods?
Yeah, and can I be so bold as to say something about Steve Bannon?
Yeah.
And this is my opinion.
Who, by the way, is I think Jack Posobiec's on there about every day.
Yeah. I mean, look, this is my opinion. This is not Brandon speaking. It's me. But to be frank with you, when I look at Steve Bannon's show and I see all those Roman Catholic icons and stuff in the background, I immediately know that the guy is coming from a different wavelength theologically. You know, he might have some great things to say on the J6 protesters and the limited government and, you know, fake impeachment against Trump or whatever. But I don't look at him and say, well, here's a guy I'm going to get my theology from, because all of those icons he's got in the background, you know, are a dead giveaway that he's coming from a form of Christendom, Christianity, that's very different than mine. And so when he starts to talk about the nation of Israel, which is a biblical discussion, I just dismiss what he's saying because I don't think he's coming from the same framework I am, which is the dispensational framework, which you can't get in Roman Catholicism or the Greek Orthodox Church or anywhere else, that God had a special plan from the beginning for Israel. And Israel is the gift that keeps on giving. And God holds nations accountable for unfairly treating Israel. I don't think I'm going to get that perspective from Steve Bannon, whose set is ripe with a bunch of Roman Catholic icons. Now, putting some of those issues aside, he may have some valuable things to say. But when he's got, you know, Posobiec or whatever this guy's name is on, and they're pontificating about, you know, the perpetual virginity of Mary, all those Roman Catholic icons should tell people that just tune the guy out here because he doesn't know what he's talking about. So there I said it.
So there you said it. Go back to the Bible. That's basically our endeavor tonight, is to encourage people to stick with the Bible. You'll never go wrong with sticking with the Bible, right, Dr. Woods?
Yeah, the Bible, the whole Bible, and nothing but the Bible.
What else are you watching in the world today, Dr. Woods? I got you here, might as well ask you.
Let's see, what am I watching in the world today? Obviously, there's a lot of good stuff going on with the restrainer. I put this under the category of the restrainer, where all of the malefactors, and now this is where Steve Bannon would have some good things to say. You know, Clapper and Brennan, and I call him Malbama, and others, you know, are going to, looks like they're going to come under some legal accountability. So I think that's a big deal. I never thought I would see that day, you know, happening. But, you know, since Trump appointed people that I call disruptors to the heads of those three-letter agencies, people like Tulsi Gabbard, Dan Bongino, and Pam Bondi, who I like. I know a lot of people don't like her, but Pam Bondi and others, it's very interesting to me that finally that whole crowd that, you know, has been lying to us for, I don't know, over 8 years or more, you know, it looks like their day in the sun is coming. And so it reminds me of Haman, you know, being hung on the very gallows that he erected for Mordecai. So I think that's the work of the Holy Spirit and its restraining influence in the world, holding back evil until it's time to let that restraint go and the man of sin can come forward.
Indeed. His website, andywoodsministries.org, andywoodsministries.org. And one of the conversations you and I love to have is the talk of Babylon rising. You and I are Babylon watchers. Man, there's so many interesting stories and articles you and I have been going over now for the last couple of years on how much is happening as Babylon's rising up out of the sands. 58 miles south of Baghdad, which again, we study in Revelation 17. Now I'm in Revelation 18 on Sunday nights, that eventually it's going to, Babylon's going to have a great influence on all the kings of the world, all the leaders of the world, the merchants, the nations. It's really something to watch. So again, stay anchored to the Bible, folks. Right, Dr. Woods?
Yeah, amen. I mean, the church, now let's go back to Roman Catholicism for a minute, taught, that all of the prophecies related to Israel's rebirth, I mean, there's no way those could be literal, because there's nothing over there but desert and sand. And that's been the land of Israel's condition for 2,000 years. And yet the prophecies indicate that the Jews will be in the land in the last days. And lo and behold, look at what's happened. So the same reality is about to happen, I believe, with Babylon. Everybody that said Babylon means something other than Babylon, Rome, or the United States.
They're going to be proven wrong. Yep.
And they are being proven wrong even as we speak, just like Israel.
Indeed. All right, we'll be right back after this break. Thank you, Dr. Woods. andywoodsministries.org. Be right back.
Nature has a rhythm, a quiet strength, a way of restoring, protecting, and renewing us. Wellness isn't just about how you feel today. It's the quiet choices you make for tomorrow. At myvitamin.com/worldview, we've made daily self-care simple. Quality vitamins, daily supplements, and targeted nutrition. myvitamin.com/worldview makes it easy. Pure ingredients thoughtfully combined, tailored for your body. Formulated by a doctor who has over 25 years of medical practice experience and is a certified functional medicine provider. Visit myvitamin.com/worldview today and take the next step towards strength, balance, and resilience. Discover the wide range of med packs made for you and your loved ones. What you nurture today becomes the strength you walk in tomorrow.
Joining me now is Dr. Lana. Here, look at this. President Trump put out the other day. I've been speaking to Coca-Cola about using real cane sugar in Coke in the United States, and they've agreed to do so. I'd like to thank all of those in authority at Coca-Cola. This will be a very good move by them. You'll see. It's just better. All right, Dr. Lana, that is a big story today, along with other stories from RFK Jr., about artificial sweeteners and whatnot, correct?
The news, because people don't know what sweeteners to use, and they want to stay away from artificial sweeteners, of course. Your sweet and low and saccharin and aspartame, all of that. I think America knows that, Brandon. But the other thing is these natural sweeteners that are causing issues. And the erythritol in particular is being linked to, it's crossing the blood-brain barrier, and it's being linked to platelet activity that's causing potential blood clots, heart issues, strokes, even things like that. And so what do? Read your labels. And yes, we have to lower our sugar, but if you're going to have a Coke, oh my goodness, make sure it's just cane sugar Coca-Cola, right? And then if you want to add a natural sweetener and you don't want the cane sugar, because that does spike insulin, what you can do, and I use this myself, is plain stevia, not erythritol. Because remember, erythritol can cause gut issues, bloat, abdominal pain, all kind of digestive issues from the erythritol. Plus, the erythritol, as I said, is causing platelet activity that can cause blood clots. So you just use plain stevia. Nothing added to it. Honestly, and I get nothing from this, but I like the Trader Joe's liquid stevia. It's 100% organic liquid stevia. No erythritol, no other added natural sweeteners. So no Truvia and erythritol, none of that stuff. It's just plain stevia. So if you're not going to do the sugar cane, and the Coca-Cola, you could do plain stevia.
Well, here's a headline from the AP. Sweetening soft drinks. What to know about sugar, high fructose corn syrup, and their alternatives. So are they about to take that out of Coca-Cola, Dr. Lana, the high fructose?
That is absolutely the goal. High fructose corn syrup is really the devil in a lot of foods and a lot of drinks. First of all, we know soda pop is not good for us. The carbonation alone is not good for us. That's not good for your bones or anything. But yes, that's the goal. The high fructose corn syrup, read your label, my friends. That is really bad stuff. And that also can cause disrupted gut microbiome and bloat and abdominal pain, among many other things. So you absolutely, I sure hope they're going to remove that from not only drinks, but food, as RFK Jr. is on the good warpath to do for our children and our family. Absolutely, that needs to go.
So tell me, how does it manifest itself? People that take in all this high fructose corn syrup. What you mentioned, bloat and abdominal problem. What else do we see it doing? Right.
A lot of people will get headaches, like low-grade headaches, and that could turn into more severe headaches like migraines and foggy brain. The brain and the gut typically. And over time, that is usually in things that are carbonated, and it's in processed foods as well. So the carbonation is not good for your bones. And remember, my friends, the liver has to filter. So everything, the liver is your filtration system. So this is very, very hard on your liver, and your liver performs hundreds of functions. So you need your liver to be clear and clean. And you've got to make sure, the other thing that high fructose corn syrup does, and all these artificial sweeteners and even the erythritol, is it starts to clog cell membranes, okay? And you cannot get nutrients inside your cells. And that's why we always suggest the phytoplankton, the Gatatana, because it's literally microscopic nutrition that will get inside your cells. But typically headaches and a lot of gut issues are some of the first signs.
Mm-hmm. So going to the cane sugar. This is going to make it where if I want to, I love Coca-Cola, but I got off of it, several years ago. This is going to make it where now if I want to enjoy Coca-Cola, I can have one maybe once a week on a Saturday night if I go out to dinner or something.
And, I always tell everybody, enjoy, relax. Life is about, joy and celebration. It's not about perfection. And if you don't have, I tell people, if you don't have any heart issues, if you don't have bone issues or gut issues, like the carbonation, people don't stop and think about the carbonation alone. That's horrible for gut health and bone health and all of that. So if you don't have any of those issues, and, everybody needs a treat now and then, if you will. And if a Coca-Cola over ice, at dinner with the real sugar, that's, no harm, no foul.
So it's going to greatly
drinking them every day.
It's going to greatly going from the high fructose corn syrup to the cane sugar is going to be a big deal then.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. I hope this gets cleaned up in our country. We are really, this, we're being poisoned with our regular food supply.
Talk to me about the Diet Cokes. I'm going to ask Dr. Bashima Williams about this week as well, but tell me about the Diet Cokes, all these Diet Cokes that President Trump is consuming. Is he getting high fructose corn syrup in those Diet Cokes?
And in the artificial sweeteners, and again, the carbonation, and it's a glass of carbonated chemicals. That is the best way to put it. And like I said, it's hard on your gut. It's hard on your brain. It's hard on your bones. And I know, like I said, we've got to get to President Trump and get him, healthy. He's got the venous insufficiency right now. And he's just incredible with his energy and what he does at his age, God bless him. But
is some of
it's
that
not
is
good. It's
some of that
carbonated chemicals.
these vein problems? Could any of it be tied to his diet?
Sure. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And that's exactly what I teach. My training from back and forth the Cleveland Clinic is cardiovascular health, and digestive health is my specialty, and cardiovascular issues. So venous issues, blood flow issues is absolutely related to diet. There's very specific protocols. And Brandon, as you know, we're going to start to release some programs for your wonderful audience next week. We're going to start with the gut, but the heart, you've got to learn how to heal the lining of your blood vessels, and you can do that. And yes, it is related to your food. It's, I remember at the Cleveland Clinic, and Dr. Esselstyn would say, cardiovascular disease, heart disease, the number one killer of Americans, the number one killer in the world, is reversible. And he would say, you eat your way into heart disease, you can eat your way out. And there's just very specific protocols to do that. I'm trained in it. So it's going to just be an honor to start to really help your audience with their gut, their blood sugar, which helps body weight, and of course their heart and their brain. And I know that we talked before, Harvard calls the 4 horsemen of the medical apocalypse. They call it cardiovascular disease, cancer, Alzheimer's and dementia, and diabetes. And if you can start to heal your gut, heal your brain and the lining of your blood vessels, then you can help, prevent that medical apocalypse. I can't even know, medical apocalypse that Harvard calls the 4 horsemen.
Now, what
are killing us?
I'm 56. What signs are there that someone might have Alzheimer's, dementia, Parkinson's? Let's say Alzheimer's coming. Are there early signs, and what are they? Because my wife and I, we live a very busy life. I think the audience knows that, right? I've got a lot of people that I oversee in this organization. There's a lot of people in the control room. There's a lot of people that are doing other things with graphics and news and writing our news every night for the Worldview Report, things going on with planning our national conference. There's all kinds of other things we're involved in as well. Some of them we don't even discuss here. So we have our warehouse with all of our orders we send out. We have a lot going on, a lot. I'm, obviously talking to a lot of people in a given day. It's just everything's a blur. My wife and I will say, we just had a 1-year birthday party for my granddaughter. And we said on this past Saturday, we said, can you believe that party was a week ago today? Because we crammed so much into that week with my daughter and son-in-law and granddaughter being in town. We'd crammed so much with work and family into that week that what had occurred a week ago to us felt like 2 or 3 weeks ago. And that's very common for the pace that we run at. And we run at a pace that we choose. I think you kind of run at a similar pace. A lot of us do. We choose the pace. But at that high level pace we're running 7 days a week here, again, by choice, there are things where I just forget. I'm just like, I don't remember doing that, I'll give you an example. I said to my wife the other night, I was playing gin with my daughter, and she said, and I just taught her to play gin that night. And we played a few rounds. She said, have you played gin yet with Mom? And I said, no, I have not played with Mom. I've played with Logan and Logan's girlfriend, but I've not played with your mother yet. My wife was in the kitchen and overheard that. She said, are you serious? Are you serious? I said, what? She said, you haven't played gin with me? I said, no, I don't think I've played gin with you yet. She pulled out the scorecard and she said, you don't remember playing gin with me? And I said, wait a minute, when was that? And she told me, I said, yeah, I do now remember that. And she just got this look on her face, like, do you got pre-Alzheimer's, pre-dementia? I said, I don't think so. I remember too many other things. I think it's we cram too much into our life and it just gets all blurred and run together. So she had something went on the other day and she couldn't remember. And I said, well, look who's got Alzheimer's beginning now. See, you're doing it too. So here's the question. And I know my audience is going to appreciate this story and this question, because, at our age, because I saw a guy the other day who's like 56, 57, and his wife has got him on social media talking about his pre-Alzheimer's, and that she's got to put like a tag on him so she can keep track of him digitally. And they're traveling the country and traveling and doing fun things and making memories together. But he's basically headed toward, not knowing what's going on. And my heart broke watching the guy stand there. His wife's, making a social media platform out of him. And, people are free to do what they want. But I felt so bad for the man. And he was so physically fit. I mean, he was really physically fit guy. And the way he dressed, he was sharp. She had several pictures. He had his watch. He had his perfect clothes. I mean, this guy was top drawer. You could tell this guy was probably a top drawer guy. Did everything he could right, ate, exercised. He was in really good shape, as I said. And here he is. I'm thinking, oh, no. So with all that said, what do you make of my story? Because I'm sure there are those watching tonight who say, I'm really glad he's asking this because I forget things. And I think to myself, is this the beginning? Is this a warning? Or is this, I just live a really busy life like House describes? What is it, Dr. Lana?
Absolutely right up my alley. And as we talked, we're going to be helping your audience out with this. So the short answer to this is, and we're not taught this, in science class. And then your medical doctor learns a little bit in medical school, but then they visit you for 9 or 10 or 12 minutes. And, they're not pulling this from medical school. And a lot of this detail isn't even taught in medical school, as we know. So the bottom line, and this is I have a program for this, and your people over the weeks and weeks will have access to getting it seriously, because we've got to help American families. This is such a critically important question. And bottom line, when I mentioned vascular and the lining of the blood vessels, that is the key to so many things. I want you to think about this for a minute. The blood flows from the head to the toes. I always tell my private patients, I have a little bit of room in my practice. I do teach this privately, but this is one of the heart programs that are coming out, because no one knows what to do when they don't understand what's going on. What happens over time? And I know what you're saying, because you hear about, oh my gosh, did you hear about Joe at the gym? And he was 47 years old and he was super lean and he was exercising and running on the treadmill and Joe dropped over dead. What the heck? What's going on? And you're young, and we choose to live a busy life. My patients, my private patients, they are busy executives. They're like you, and they own companies, and they are go, go, go. And they have a lot of people that depend on them. You are that prime person, Brandon. So I go back to, because this is a whole program here, but the short answer is, and this is so important for all of you to understand, you have to learn it's gut health, brain health, in the lining of your blood vessels. So it's gut, brain, heart, and guess what? Here's the good news. It is dietary, and we innocently eat, though it's standard American diet. And I'm not saying everybody has to, live on celery shavings or be a vegan and all that. I'm not saying that. There is a gold standard science-based protocol for gut, the brain, the heart. And I will tell you in a nutshell, and I say this, and Brandon, we are honest as days long. We don't plan this, sir.
Right.
I would go to the ends of the earth not to ever be without glutathione and gadolinium. Glutathione and gadolinium, because your brain and the lining of your blood vessels and your gut needs all of that. And we are losing glutathione starting at age 18, 19, 20. The blood vessel damage, ready for this, everyone? The damage in the lining of your blood vessels that has to do with dementia and Alzheimer's and forgetting things and fatigue and everything from erectile dysfunction to poor behavior is in your blood vessels. That damage starts about age 10 in grade school. And
Really?
nobody's talking about this. Nobody tells us this. I say, you know me, all glory to God, right? For my training, because I was trained by some of the foremost medical doctors in the world who did the right thing for the patient. And they're in their mid to late 90s now. They don't even practice anymore. And they're all doing well. They're all okay. They don't have Alzheimer's. They don't have dementia. They're not, aging poorly. Everyone thinks, oh, that's age. You're supposed to age poorly. You need an assisted living nursing home. You're going to get dementia, Alzheimer's. No, my friends. That's not how we're supposed to age. So Brandon and I are locking arms here to offer you, as the weeks go on, ways to heal your gut, your brain health, and your heart health, as well as along with that, the lining of your blood vessels, and that goes with heart health.
Excellent.
Now, of course, never ever taught, and I'm going to teach you. We've worked together for so long now, and little by little, everybody just hang on tight. But over the next weeks, Brandon and I are going to tell you how you can get these programs, and it's going to be over the weeks, but it's going to help you avoid the 4 horsemen that Harvard talks about.
Excellent. Want to do that. Now, of course, when that little incident happened, I didn't remember playing gin with my wife, and she had to shake my memory to remind me, and I did, finally. I just said to my wife, go get the Gadatana. Or go get the Numi. It just reinforces my desire to swish with Numi every day for 3 minutes, which I generally do that right before I go to bed. I don't know if I should be doing it in the morning or at night, but I like to do it at night.
But morning, night.
Both.
Yeah.
All right, both.
Morning, night. I'll tell you a super quick story.
By the way, let's say someone does have some issue. Can this reverse their problem? Can you heal the problem? Or it's once you have it, I'm sorry, you're on that road, you're going down it.
Well, I'll tell you a super quick story. And my mom is going to be 89, everyone. And there's also someone, I'm not making any health claims, but here's the 3 magical things. And you can all get them where Brandon is showing you on him and Melissa's links. But honestly, there is no reason that we all have to suffer like this. It's diet and lifestyle. And I know someone, my patient's best friends, have someone, I'm going to say a disease, and I'm not saying we heal or reverse anything. And I'm going to tell you what they're doing. And I'm going to tell you what I'm doing for my mother, who is going to be 89. Her mental capacity is sharp as a tack. I'm telling you, if she didn't have arthritis in her knees, she could still drive her car. I'm really serious. And I'll tell you exactly what we're doing. There's a lot more to it with the diet and lifestyle, but my mom, these 3 things. She is 3 times a day using the glutathione swish, a scoop a day of Gadatana, and every morning her neuro from Numi. So 3 times a day, the glutathione, once a day, the neuro before noon, and every morning before breakfast, her Gadatana without fail. And I've watched it protect her brain and sharpen her cognitive function without a doubt, my friends. Here's the quick story, and I'm not making any claims. This is a patient of mine's best friend, and I talk to these people on the phone. So December 23rd, 2024. Okay, everybody, last Christmas, their adult daughter was diagnosed with Lewy body dementia. They went through a horrible, horrible marriage trauma situation. Okay. They were curled up in a ball in the fetal position, screaming 24/7, screaming. And their adult daughter in their 50s came home because the mental care facility got hospice for her and said, she needs hospice now, and you have to bring her home because she's screaming 24/7 and we can't keep her in the facility anymore. We're losing patients and our staff can't even handle it. Lewy body dementia. So hospice is there, and they started, okay, I'm holding this right in my hands. And yes, full disclosure, like a few times a day, they were doing Gadatana, and about 6 to 7 times a day, they were doing both of these a couple minutes apart. So they took a couple teaspoons, put it in a syringe, shot it in her mouth. A few minutes later, 4 or 5 minutes later, 2 teaspoons of the neuro in a syringe, shot it in the mouth, and then absolutely, this is God's microscopic nutrition, because someone that's that ill, there's no way that their cell membranes are working properly or their gut is working properly. So the GATA-TANA gets nutrition right in your cells that your brain desperately needs. So 30 days later, the screaming stopped.
Wow.
3 months later, I talked to the adult daughter on the phone. I talked to the mother. The mother was crying because the adult daughter was sitting in a chair. The arms weren't like cement anymore. She was wiping her mouth, sitting in a wheelchair, and saying short sentences, still babbling a little bit, but saying short sentences. Now it's 7.5 months later. That adult daughter is saying more clear sentences and walking with a walker. And it's because we're not making any health claims. Please, please, please understand, Brandon and I, or at NUMI or the Global Phytoplankton Alliance, we never ever make a medical claim. But when you can get glutathione and cysteine and the ingredients here inside the cell membranes in seconds, and that's what this does, and you can get God's microscopic nutrition inside the cell membrane and in the cell in seconds, the body can start to function again, and it brings the body back to homeostasis. When I tell you all that if I had to go to a desert island, I would be grabbing as many, many, many boxes and bottles of glutathione from NUMI and Global Phytoplankton GATA-TANA as I could. And that is, I know you know that I'm not making medical
I do
claims.
know that. Absolutely.
I hope this blesses all of you. These
Absolutely.
are something every American family needs these products. It's
I
not,
agree. And we
it's
take them.
not if we do.
And I know you take them, we take them. We're very serious. Now, put me and everyone else at risk, though. In our busy, busy, busy life, if we forget a few things every now and then, it's nothing we should panic about, right?
Right. And I'm going to help you with the programs too. And also, everyone, make sure most of America, and I put this in the programs, they drink water wrong. So just make sure that you're hydrated with good, still filtered water, not reverse osmosis water, not distilled. A lot of Americans, Brandon, or 74% of adults are dehydrated. And that will help your brain function as well. And we're not taught how to buy food, prepare food, cook food, and eat food. And I have that in my program.
And we're going to be introducing that program very, very soon. We're going to get the landing page done and everything. Folks, all of these are at worldviewtube.com/sponsors. The GATA-TANA, the NUMI, it's all there. Worldview Tube, there they are right by each other. Worldviewtube.com/sponsors, worldviewtube.com/sponsors. It's products she uses, we use, Melissa and I. We, of course, give half a scoop to Dolly, the GATA-TANA. Again, there's a lot of science behind this. So as we come and do a full circle, here we have an article, 0-calorie sweetener linked to blood clots and risk of heart disease, study finds. So thank you, President Trump, for putting RFK Jr. where he's at. Thank you for getting Coca-Cola to get away from that high fructose corn syrup and go toward pure cane. And thank you for helping us get this Maha movement going. Thank you, Donald Trump, President Trump. Closing comment?
We need help, everyone. Post-2020, we need some dietary supplementation. You all know really quick, I do not practice like a naturopathic doctor, which God, you know, with all due respect, are usually told to take 72 bottles of vitamins. That's not the way either. But we need some dietary intervention post-2020, along with a healthy diet, exercise, good water, and good people around us. And these are two of the things that are not an option, especially post-2020.
That's how we feel here at the House's house. All right, Dr. Lana, as always, inspiredbywellness.com. Dr. Lana, have a great week.
You too. God bless everyone.
Dr. Lana checking in. And again, folks, you'll find all of these great products that she's talking about that Melissa and I take there at worldviewtube.com/sponsors. Join me now is Dr. Mark Lucky. I want him also to respond to this. Coca-Cola plans cane sugar Coke as higher prices boost profits. Dr. Lucky, welcome back. Thanks for being with us.
Hey, Brandon. Nice to see you today. How are you today?
I'm great. Thank you for being with us. What do you make of this? President Trump, he's been talking about it on social media for about a week now. He wanted to replace that high, the fructose corn syrup with cane. How does this fit into your expertise of inflammation? And because again, I want to remind our audience, you wrote a book, Inflammaging, Unlocking the Secrets to Inflammation and Aging. How does this all fit with your interest in the topic related to, sugar and high fructose corn syrup, etc.?
All those things, yes. Or, we've called sugar the gateway drug, right? Because sugar does excite the body. But unfortunately, over the years, we stopped using natural sugars. It got bleached, and then that bleaching sugar went into high fructose corn syrup. And this has been a big health concern for many, many years, and many, many people that are really understanding of what these ingredients do for the body. So a lot of people, or some people, know that Coca-Cola had Mexican Coke, and Mexican Coke was made in Mexico with the pure cane sugar. Now, it's still sugar. It's just a little bit better than the high fructose corn syrup. So Coca-Cola is not going to change their formula. I promise you that. They're still going to have their original formula, or their formula. And by the way, the original formula, as you know, had cocaine in it way back, 1895. They reformulated it and took that out. But the high fructose corn syrup is still going to be available. They're just going to add in another flavor, if you will, or at least another type, which is going to be the pure or the natural cane sugar, which is going to give us an alternative to what we want to purchase. Dr. Pepper did it several years ago, and then they discontinued it. But I'm just as excited about that, giving us different options as I am. Welch's this week decided to take out their artificial dyes for natural dyes. That's really important. PepsiCo, they've had a natural cane sugar Pepsi for a while. You can get it in some of the stores, but they're removing artificial dyes and flavors as well to a cleaner ingredient list. So, these companies, because of the MAHA movement, because of Trump and Robert Kennedy, of course, these companies are starting to get the picture. We want cleaner, better foods for us and our children.
Yeah, and sure, we do. So are you happy with what RFK Jr. is getting accomplished? I reported my Worldview Report tonight, by the way. He just fired 2 of his top aides because I guess when he was on vacation, somebody didn't check in with him, and you get this mRNA Moderna shot coming through thing, right?
Yeah, I'm really happy with the way he's conducting his business and what we're doing moving forward with these companies changing their ingredient list and really taking into consideration what's healthy, what's not healthy moving forward. The last 40 or 50 years, my goodness, look at us. Obesity is rampant. Overweightness is rampant. You look at, they did a study on kitty cats and our cats and noticed that the 3rd or 4th generation of feeding them those processed foods and nothing else, they would get acute leukemia, the feline leukemia. They had more incidences of AIDS, they have more incidences of all the health issues, arthritis in the cats. And then you look at us, 3 or 4 generations of the food we've been eating, and we're having the same problems. Leukemia up, not being able to have children up, infertility, all those things up. And it goes back to all the chemicals and all the things in our food, which leads back to inflammation in the body, which is really, in my practice and what I do and have been doing for 27 years, is when we can eliminate inflammation in the body, your body will be able to fight off disease processes, bacteria, viruses, all those things.
Wow. I want to go to this also. This came out today. HHS finds systemic disregard for sanctity of life and organ transplant system. This is a press release from HHS dated today, July 21st, July 21st, 2025. Secretary Kennedy threatens closure of deficient organ procurement organization. The U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, under the leadership of Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. today, announced a major initiative to begin reforming the organ transplant system following an investigation by its Health Resources and Services Administration that revealed disturbing practices by a major organ procurement organization. Quote, our findings show that hospitals allowed the organ procurement process to begin when patients showed signs of life. And this is horrifying, end quote. Secretary Kennedy said, quote, the organ procurement organizations that coordinate access to transplants will be held accountable. The entire system must be fixed to ensure that every potential donor's life is treated with the sanctity it deserves, end quote. HRSA directed the Organ Procurement and Transplantation Network to reopen a disturbing case involving potentially preventable harm to a neurologically injured patient by the federally funded Organ Procurement Organization serving Kentucky, Southwest Ohio, and parts of West Virginia. Under the Biden administration, the OPTN's Membership and Professional Standards Committee closed the same case without action. Under Secretary Kennedy's leadership, HRSA demanded a thorough independent review. And it goes through the case. 351 cases where organ donation was authorized but ultimately not completed, it found. 103 cases, 29.3% showed concerning features, including 73 patients with neurological signs incompatible with organ donation. At least 28 patients may not have been deceased at the time organ procurement was initiated. Okay.
Brandon, listen, I've been saying this for years, telling my patients when they go to DMV.
Yes.
Stop clicking the yes on organ donation. I mean, you know, it looks, and I hope I don't get hate mail for this, but it looks good on paper. You want to help somebody else in need. But we also know that the higher up you get, things get discombobulated.
100%.
Oh, they're taking people's organs that aren't dead. It is unbelievable. So it's always
you and I, without knowing, because we don't rehearse. You didn't know I was going to bring this up.
Nope.
And I didn't know what you were going to say. But you and I, without rehearsing this, are saying the same thing. My wife and I have told her for years when she get her license renewed, don't choose to be an organ donor. They will let you die to harvest your organs. She's like, what? I'm like, oh yeah, they will let you die to harvest your organs. About a year ago, we went to our attorney's office and we were sitting there signing some updated wills and living wills about who would do what. And in there, we rejected organ donation. And she questioned me about it again. And I said, no. These people will let you die, particularly being who you are and who I am. They will let us die. We're useless eaters to them. Look what they did during COVID, okay? They will let us die and harvest our organs. No. And we had to have 2 witnesses in the room for the signing of these documents. And so my attorney brought in 2 people from his office. These people seemed a little shocked because I was just, blunt. They didn't seem like, woo, they could handle how blunt I am. And I guess some people can't handle the truth, as the old saying goes. But you and I are on the same page. Look at what they did during COVID, Dr. Lucky. You think they're not going to look and say, sure, we're going to let House die and take his organs. You look at who he is anyway. We don't like this guy.
I'll go one further on you, Brandon. Look at the Tuskegee experiment. If nobody in your organization or out of your listeners have ever studied the Tuskegee experiment, our government gave black men syphilis.
Yep.
Not tell them they gave them syphilis under the guise of health care.
Yep.
Come in for free health care, gave them syphilis, then watched it, and people go, yeah, but that was a long time ago. I think they ended the program in like 1973.
Oh, we had eugenics and the forced sterilization of Black Americans going up until the 70s. Anyone who wants to watch a documentary on it, it's called MAFA. I think it's called MAFA. I'll look it up real quick on YouTube. We played clips of it. We showed clips of it. It's an amazing documentary. Up until the 1970s, we had states that were doing forced sterilization on people of color.
It is unbelievable to me. So I absolutely agree with that and have told all my family members since I've been in practice. Check no on the organ donation. I know it seems like a good thing, but if you are close or still living, they may harvest your organs with your consent because you've got it on your driver's license, but they won't consider your life because they need all your organs.
Yep.
So.
Yep. So there you go. That's that. Now, that's another great thing that this Trump administration, HHS, is doing. And there you go. I want to go back real quick to your book, Inflammaging, Unlocking the Secrets to Inflammation and Aging. Remind our audience, I know they can get it at Amazon. You also have one on sleep. You also have one on rest and repair.
Rest and repair, yep.
There you go. Unlocking the Secrets to Inflammation, Restorative Sleep, and Vitality. Tell our audience how important sleep is. I know people might be shocked by this because people will say to me often, when do you ever sleep? And I tell them all the time, that's the one of the things I don't skimp on is sleep. I always try to get 8 hours. And more if I can. I mean, I think a couple weeks ago on a Saturday, I slept 11 hours. And look, I'm a big believer that when my body says, don't get up, keep sleeping, if I'm able to do that on a Saturday, I will keep sleeping because I know my body's telling me, you need it, go back to sleep.
That's absolutely correct. You only repair when you're sleeping. You can only heal when you're sleeping. There are 3 non-rapid eye movement stages, and then there's a rapid eye movement stage. That third non-rapid eye movement stage, that's where your body is going to produce more collagen. That's when you're going to decrease in your body. That's when you're going to rebuild for the next day, which will move you into REM, which is where you're going to process emotions, which is where you're going to process also your memory bank. You'll put your memories in the memory bank. So it's really important that you get through each of those stages in the right amount of time so that you don't jump all the way into REM too quickly. And this is Rest to Repair. It talks about how to develop a sleep sanctuary. Don't put your computer, your watch, your phone by your bed. It tells you all these different things. Keep your room nice and cool. Don't drink caffeine or alcohol after caffeine after at least 2 o'clock, and don't drink alcohol at night. You don't take any drugs. All these things will help you sleep. We did develop that restorative sleep gummy with these things in mind, with the 9 botanicals that have 269,000 PubMed studies on their safety and what they do for the body, which is to prepare your body for sleep and rest. So it gets your body, you fall asleep faster, you stay asleep longer, and then you wake up the next day feeling refreshed, feeling ready to conquer the day. See, most people take melatonin and melatonin only, and if it's a cheap brand of melatonin, you go right into REM, you skip all the other sleep stages, and you go right into dreaming, and you go right into like pretty much running your whole night. So when you wake up the next day, you're groggy, you feel drugged, you feel like you haven't had any sleep because you haven't, because you're REM, you're just processing like this. So these 9 botanicals, like valerian root and L-theanine and ashwagandha and lemon balm and passion flower and chamomile and magnesium, they all are developed and put in this restorative sleep gummy with a little bit of cane sugar, by the way. We didn't put any artificial ingredients in it, a little tapioca pudding to make it really nice and smooth as you chew it. This was designed to help you get into restorative sleep. And I am so proud to say I was one of the people that supported the formulation, worked on it to make sure it was the right formulation, the right ingredients. And wow, it's our second biggest seller behind the Elixir. I couldn't be any more proud of it.
Good job. Congratulations. They're available at, by the way, melissahousebg.com. Talk to me about the Elixir, by the way. I take it every day, 80 clinical trials behind it. I give this, so much praise because I'm not taking my Pepcid anymore since December of 2023. My hands have stopped cracking and bleeding like they did for years and years and years. The hair growth has been great and awesome. There's so many positive things I could say about this Elixir with the 80 clinical trials behind it. It's not uncommon, by the way, that Melissa and I take 2 a day. I don't know if some people want to do that or not, but it's not uncommon I take 2 a day.
Yeah, the pack says 1 to 2 a day. I recommend 2 a day for my patients, and my wife and I, my kids, we all take 2 a day because of the free radicals that we are being bombarded with on a daily basis. I want you to understand that free radicals come from just normal eating and drinking and the exchange of oxygen in our body. That's how we were designed, but we were also designed to take in antioxidants to get rid of those free radicals. Unfortunately, because they're spraying glyphosate on everything, including your GMO corn, by the way, or non-GMO corn and organic foods, you're getting crossover from those glycophosphates, and then what they're spraying on, it's over the plains, and when you walk out the door, you're being bombarded by these free radicals. So it's really important to get an antioxidant that does multiple things. One can cross the blood-brain barrier, which is the astaxanthin. One that can cross the blood-retinal barrier to protect your eyes. One that is a pure antioxidant, again, the real astaxanthin. It's 6,000 times stronger than vitamin C. It's 850 times stronger than CoQ10, 100 times stronger than vitamin E. It is the king of antioxidants. It's pure, which means it never turns into a free radical. Once it's into this life cycle, it relieves the body. And the cool thing about it, which I love more than anything, is it's got multiple free electrons. So it can fight multiple free radicals at once. Whereas most antioxidants, one free electron, they target on one free radical, they destroy it, and then it goes away. The astaxanthin, multiple things, which means it can affect every cell, system, organ, and tissue in the body, and that's what it does. So the astaxanthin, the cat's claw, reduces that inflammation, turns off the inflammatory markers, and then turns on the collagen production markers. And then, of course, you're getting that good Verisol B collagen peptides into your body, signaling your body to repair, restore, and rejuvenate.
Excellent. Well, of course, as always, folks, we highly recommend it. MelissaHouseBG.com, MelissaHouseBG.com. Also, pick up Dr. Lucky's books on Amazon, folks, and a big announcement coming soon. I guess you can't tell us everything, but Bella Grace has another big announcement coming soon.
Yeah, the founders of Bella Grace, our corporate team, we are committed to helping people, not only in this country, but around the world. And I'll leave you with this. If you look at the health of our country, as we talked about earlier, and people around the world, 70% of our country is either obese or overweight. Now, we do have the Bella Trim, and it is an amazing product when used correctly, along with protein and water and the correct steps. It does do a great job of reducing blood pressure, reducing blood sugar, reducing cortisol. And it's got some appetite suppression if you use it correctly. However, the big word out there right now are GLPs and GLP-1s and GLP-2s and GLP-3s. I'm sure you've seen there 15 million Americans are on GLPs right now. By 2030, there'll be 30 million Americans on them. They'll spend more money than people will on their cancer drugs for weight loss, for weight management, for trying to help their diabetes. So we are constantly looking at ways to help our communities, help our friends, help our family members, help the people around the country and around the world. And just know we're working on a class of something that will revolutionize weight loss and weight management really forever. And I cannot wait to be able to share the bigger picture with you. And hopefully the next time I come on, I'll be able to do that. So Brandon, I'm going to make the announcement tonight. My wife and I have been invited, if you will, to Italy next week to speak on the stage in Naples and Napoli. We have a big event, a Bella Grace event. So we're going to go there and talk about the skincare, and we're going to talk about the Bella Grace Elixir. And then when I return from there, I think we'll be able to make that announcement.
Looking forward to that. That sounds great. Excellent. Let's do it. Dr. Lucky, checking in tonight. Check out his books on Amazon. By the way, folks, real quick here, look at this. I found it on YouTube. Mafa 21. You guys go look that up on YouTube. We've played a lot of it before. How we were doing eugenics and genocide in America on Black Americans, our government. Giving them syphilis, as Dr. Lucky was talking about, and then sterilizing women even into the 70s with state eugenics programs here in America. Something, again, we need to talk about, that's for sure. So, no, Don't trust these health experts unless they earn your trust and are worthy of your trust. And my opinion is, do not be an organ donor. And I'm so thankful for RFK Jr. Coming out with that press release yesterday. They're investigating people being killed, let die, taking their organs instead of protecting their life and bringing them back to health to live with their families. Instead, the medical profession apparently wanted their organs. I would never be an organ donor on my driver's license. So there you go. If folks doubt me on the history, go watch MAFA, MAAFA 21. Watch it for free on YouTube. Thank you as always, Dr. Lucky.
Thanks. See you soon. Talk to y'all later.
Dr. Lucky checking in tonight. And that does it for our broadcast tonight. Hey, do you appreciate what we're doing here? Remember, you can find out about all of our sponsors at worldviewtube.com/sponsors, worldviewtube.com/sponsors. Bella Grace, Numi, Galatana, all of them are right there. So please check them out. Roll the music. Let's call it a night. Hey, don't forget about our Ozarks Worldview Weekend coming up. Friday night, October 3rd, Saturday, October 4th. Full details at worldviewstore.com, worldviewstore.com. It's under sponsors now as well, I'm being told in my ear. Really? Well, looky there. Under sponsors as well at worldviewtube.com/sponsors. Only 350 seats. Look at that. You can walk right up and speak to the speakers. Well, you want to compete with 1,000 people because we only have 350 seats in the theater. So register now. May God save America. Take care.